The fire had burned out, but the warmth was still there. Tools left behind, doors slightly open, wood still standing. And yet, not a single person remained. No voices, no movement, no struggle, just silence. The wind moved through the settlement, slowly, deliberately, as if searching for something that wasn't there anymore. The ocean roared in the distance, waves crashing against the shore, relentless, unchanged. But here, everything had stopped. No bodies, no graves, no signs of a fight, no message, except one, carved into wood, a single word, left behind, like a whisper from the past. An entire colony, men, women, children, gone without a trace, without an explanation. And for over 400 years, no one has been able to answer one simple question. What happened here? The empty settlement, August 18th, 1590. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of silence. The boats cut slowly through the dark water toward land that should have been alive. When John White stepped onto Roanoke Island, the first thing he noticed was the quiet. No voices to greet him. No movement between the trees. No smoke rising from cooking fires. Only wind, cold, restless, moving through empty space. The settlement was still there, but it didn't feel right. The houses stood, but not as they were left. Wooden walls pulled apart, structures carefully dismantled. Not destroyed, taken down. Barrels lay scattered in the dirt. Iron tools half buried in sand. Rust creeping over metal that hadn't been touched in years. Nearby, broken chests split open, their contents gone or ruined. White moved deeper, step by step, listening, hoping. But the deeper he went, the more the silence pressed in. No bodies, no bones, no graves, nothing. If something terrible had happened here, where were the dead? If they had fled in panic, why was there no sign of struggle? Then a marking caught his eye, cut into the bark of a tree. Rough, sharp, deliberate. CRO. White froze. He knew this wasn't random. This was a message. He moved quickly now, searching every surface, every wall, every post. And then he saw it carved into one of the wooden posts of the settlement. Clear, deep, intentional CROATOAN Island. A place he knew. A place the colonists knew. Before he had left years earlier, White gave strict instructions. If they were forced to move, they must carve the name of their destination. And if they were in danger, they must carve a cross. There was no cross. Not on the tree. Not on the post, nowhere. For a moment, hope. Maybe they weren't lost. Maybe they had chosen to leave. Maybe they were still alive somewhere else. But something didn't add up. If this was planned, why leave supplies behind? Why abandon heavy tools, weapons, materials they would need? Why dismantle homes, but not take everything? And the biggest question, why was the settlement completely empty? Not one person, not one trace of where they went next. The wind pushed harder now, whistling through broken wood. The ocean thundered beyond the trees. Storm clouds gathered above the island, dark, heavy, closing in. White stood in the center of it all, surrounded by what remained of a life that had vanished. Not destroyed, not erased, just gone. No fight, no warning, no explanation. Only one word carved into wood, and standing there with nothing but silence around him. One question refused to go away. Where did they go? The edge of the world. Before the silence, before the disappearance, there was a place. Not remote in the abstract sense, remote in the way that changes survival itself. Roanoke Island. Sat on the edge of the known world. A narrow strip of land in the Outer Banks, caught between ocean and sound, never fully stable, never fully secure. From a distance, it looked survivable, but that impression didn't last long. The wind never settled here. It moved constantly across open shoreline and forest, shaping everything it touched. Salt carried inland on every gust, slowly degrading soil, limiting what could grow. Fresh water was inconsistent. In some seasons, barely accessible at all. And beneath it all, the land itself refused to stay fixed. These were not static islands. They shifted. Storms redrew their edges. Tides cut new channels. Entire stretches of shoreline could vanish over time. What existed when you arrived was never guaranteed to remain. Beyond the tree line, the Atlantic Ocean, a constant presence, heavy, unbroken, waves striking the coast without pause, as if testing how long the land could hold. And then there were the storms. Not seasonal interruptions, but structural threats, hurricanes forming quickly, moving without warning, reshaping everything in their path. This coastline already had a history of failed voyages and lost ships. Long before any colony attempted to settle here, living here meant operating without margins for error. No nearby cities, no immediate reinforcement, no reliable evacuation route, just isolation, measured in distance and time. Any help from England existed on the far side of an ocean, months away under ideal conditions, and still uncertain to arrive at all. Survival depended entirely on the land, and the land was inconsistent. Crops struggled in sandy soil, wild food sources fluctuated, fishing was vulnerable to weather patterns that could shift overnight. Then came a deeper stressor. Between 1587 and 1590, the region entered a severe drought cycle, one of the worst in centuries. Rainfall dropped, water sources receded, even surrounding native communities were affected. For the settlers, this didn't create hardship in isolation, it compounded it. Less food production, less reliable water, less room for error. Every system they depended on began to weaken at once, and then the structural reality set in. This wasn't a temporary settlement with support. It was a closed system. No reinforcement from outside. No stable supply chain. No certainty of rescue. Only environmental pressure, increasing over time. Wind that never stopped. Water that could not be controlled. And distance that could not be reduced. So the real question was no longer about comfort or difficulty. It became about duration. How long could a community remain intact here? Before isolation itself became the deciding force, the people who came to stay. They weren't soldiers. They weren't conquerors. They were families, men who knew how to build, how to form, how to survive. Women who carried what little they owned and everything they hoped for. Children, too young to understand where they were or how far they had come. This wasn't meant to be temporary. It was meant to be a beginning, a place where life could grow. At the center of it all, John White, artist, leader, father, a man trusted to guide them through a world none of them truly understood. Among the settlers, his daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband, Ananias Dare. And then, something unexpected, something hopeful. On August 18th, 1587, a child was born, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in this new world. A symbol, a sign that maybe, just maybe, this place could become home. For a moment, there was joy, laughter, a future they could almost see. But beyond the settlement, tension was already building. The land wasn't empty. It belonged to native tribes. And from the beginning, relations were fragile, misunderstandings, fear, and then violence. A colonist named George Howe was found dead. Ambushed, retaliation came quickly, but it was a mistake. White's men attacked the wrong village, allies, not enemies. Trust broke, and once it broke, it didn't come back. Only one connection remained. Manteo, a man who had traveled to England, who understood both worlds. He stayed close, tried to keep peace, but even that was fragile inside the settlement. Life became harder. Food supplies were limited. Crops struggled. Every meal mattered. Days were spent working, building, trying to make something stable on land that resisted it. Nights were different. The forest came alive. Sounds in the dark, unfamiliar, unseen. Children stayed close to the fire. Parents listened to every movement beyond the trees. Because out here, they were not in control. And slowly, fear replaced hope, not all at once, but little by little, until one reality became impossible to ignore. They were alone. No ships on the horizon, no sign of help returning, no guarantee anyone even could. And as weeks turned into months, a question began to settle into every mind. What happens when an entire community is left without help? The man who left and could not return. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. They had a plan, a simple one. Survive until help returned. But survival required supplies, and supplies were running out. By late August 1587, the colonists made a decision, a desperate one. They asked their leader, John White, to leave them behind, not forever, just long enough to bring back food, tools, reinforcements. They put it in writing, a plea, clear, unified. They were all of one mind, begging him to go. White didn't want to leave. His daughter was there, his granddaughter, still an infant, but there was no other choice. On August 28, 1587, after just over a month on the island, he stepped onto a ship and sailed away. Before leaving, he gave one final instruction. If the colony moved, they must carve their destination into wood, clear, visible, and if something went wrong, if they were in danger, they must carve a cross, a warning, a signal. It was a system built on trust, a promise that no matter what happened, he would find them again. Weeks later, White reached England, but England was no longer thinking about colonies. War had begun, the Anglo-Spanish War. Spain was coming. The threat of invasion grew stronger every day. Then in 1588, the Spanish Armada, every available ship, was called back. Every resource redirected. There would be no rescue mission, no supply run, no return to Roanoke. White waited. Weeks, months, years, watching the ocean, knowing his family was somewhere beyond it, trapped, alone. 3 years passed. By the time he finally secured passage, it wasn't even a rescue mission, just a private voyage heading toward the Caribbean. Roanoke was an afterthought. When he returned in 1590, everything had changed. The settlement was empty. The people were gone, and the only message left behind, CROATOAN, no cross, no warning, no sign of distress, which meant one thing. According to the plan, they had left, willingly. But that raises another question. If this was a planned move, why did no one wait? Why didn't they leave a second message? Why didn't they make it easier to follow? And more importantly, what forced them to leave at all? Because they didn't just relocate, they vanished. And the man who promised to return arrived too late to change anything. So now the question shifts. Was this really a planned move, or something else entirely? The clue no one could follow. The answer was already there, carved into wood. Simple, direct. CROATOAN. John White didn't hesitate. There was only one logical conclusion. The colonists had moved, and if they had followed the agreed plan, they were still alive, somewhere nearby. CROATOAN Island lay within reach, not a distant theory, a physical destination, a place that could still be reached before it was too late. White ordered the ships prepared, sails adjusted, course set, time already slipping. Then the weather shifted. Without warning, dark cloud systems moved in from the horizon, pulling the sea into instability. Wind strengthened across open water. The surface of the ocean began to break unevenly, rising into unpredictable motion. And then it escalated. A storm system formed quickly. No gradual buildup, no warning phase, just immediate force. Waves struck the ships from multiple directions, breaking formation. Masts flexed under pressure. Rigging snapped. Wood groaned under strain. Crew members fought to maintain control, but the environment was already in command. The ships were driven off course, not away from danger, but away from the only known destination. And just like that, the window closed. The expedition was forced to retreat. Damaged vessels, limited supplies, no viable path back into the storm system. There would be no second attempt. No extended search, no return to CROATOAN. The investigation ended. Before it could begin, John White never reached the settlement, never confirmed what happened, never saw his family again. And the only instruction left behind was never completed. The message remained, but the follow-through never came. The ships turned back toward England, and the Atlantic reclaimed distance. For White, the search didn't fail in theory. It failed in timing. And with that, the final opportunity to verify what happened at Roanoke disappeared. Years passed, then decades, and the absence became harder to explain than any theory. When English settlers reached Jamestown in 1607, they began asking questions immediately. Local accounts surfaced, stories of encounters, descriptions of people with European appearance living within native communities. Some reports suggested survival, others suggested conflict. Most contradicted each other. John Smith documented these testimonies, but none could be independently verified. One account attributed to Powhatan claimed that English settlers had been attacked years earlier and killed, but no physical evidence supported the claim. No location, no remains, no confirmation, only oral history, inconsistent in detail. Even Spanish coastal expeditions searched the region. They identified landing sites associated with earlier English activity, but no surviving colony, no settlement, no population, no trace of continuation. Centuries later, archaeology added fragments but not resolution. European objects appeared at multiple sites. Tools, ceramics, metal fragments, some inland, some on coastal islands. These findings suggest movement, or contact, or survival in some altered form, but they never form a complete picture. No graves, no confirmed settlement site, no definitive archaeological signature of the colony itself. Only scattered evidence, disconnected across geography and time, as if the record was never written in one place to begin with, or was later erased in pieces, which leaves a final problem, not about where they went, but about what should have remained behind, because someone, somewhere, must have known more than the record shows. And yet, no complete account survives. No confession, no verified testimony, no final explanation, which leads to the only question that remains stable across every theory. Did someone know the truth and choose not to leave it behind? Theories that refuse to settle. The truth didn't disappear. It fractured, scattered across accounts, across landscapes, across centuries. And ever since, every attempt to reconstruct it has produced the same result. Fragments, not answers. The first theory is the simplest. They didn't vanish. They left. CROATOAN Island was home to the CROATOAN people led by Monteo. The message left behind was explicit. CROATOAN, no cross, no warning, only direction, which implies a key possibility. This wasn't a retreat under pressure. It was a relocation. Some historians argue the colonists moved south and integrated into the CROATOAN community, gradually dissolving into an existing population. Supporting this theory are scattered artifacts, European tools, metal fragments, a musket ball embedded in animal bone, evidence of contact and coexistence. But the absence is equally important. No confirmed settlement, no graves, no population trace that can be definitively attributed to them. For over 100 individuals, the archaeological footprint should exist. It doesn't. The second theory shifts inland. Before departing, John White had instructed that relocation inland, approximately 50 miles, was an option. Toward more stable territory, modern excavations in inland river regions have uncovered English pottery, metalworking debris, 16th century European material culture. This suggests movement beyond the coast, possibly even a secondary settlement attempt. But again, the same problem remains. No confirmed colony, no burial evidence, no structural remains that can be linked with certainty, and a logistical gap emerges. The colonists had limited navigation capability inland. No established routes, no verified transport system, which makes coordinated migration difficult to explain at scale. The third explanation is environmental collapse. Drought conditions between 1587 and 1590 severely impacted the region. Crops failed, water sources diminished, food insecurity increased across both settlers and local tribes. Under sustained stress, survival failure becomes plausible. Starvation, disease, gradual population decline. Yet this theory also leaves a gap. Mass mortality leaves physical evidence. So far, none has been conclusively identified. No graves, no remains, no confirmed site of collapse. The fourth possibility is conflict. Hostile engagement with local tribes or Spanish forces during a period of territorial tension. However, the archaeological record contradicts this. When White returned, the settlement showed no signs of destruction. No fire damage, no scattered weapons, no battlefield indicators. The site had been dismantled, not destroyed, which reduces the likelihood of a single catastrophic attack. The final theory is less external, more internal. Failure of cohesion. Under isolation, leadership loss, and resource pressure, the colony may have fragmented, not as a single event, but as multiple decisions. Some groups may have joined native communities, others may have migrated inland. Some may have dispersed in smaller survival units, and some may not have survived at all. Not one disappearance. Multiple outcomes, layered over time. This explains the absence of a single conclusion. but it also prevents one. Beyond these theories, speculation expands, but evidence does not. Stories of curses, of disappearance beyond explanation, but none are supported by historical or archaeological data. Only one fact remains stable. They existed, and then they did not remain where they were found, which leaves the problem unresolved at its core. Not just where they went, but why no single version of events survived intact. Every theory explains part of the absence. None explain all of it, and so the question remains open. Not which theory is possible, but which one can account for everything we don't see. No bodies, no graves, no final account. Only a settlement that stopped being a settlement. Roanoke Island still exists. The shoreline still shifts. The wind still moves through the trees. The ocean still breaks against the coast without pause. But nothing about the place answers what happened. It only preserves the absence. When John White returned in 1590, he did not find destruction. He found removal. Structures dismantled with care. Belongings scattered, not burned. No bodies, no conflict markers, no final moment frozen in time. Only a single word remained. CROATOAN, a direction, or a decision. And that is where the historical record stops being physical and becomes psychological. Because disappearance is not the same as erasure. Something happened here that removed presence without leaving behind the expected consequences of loss. That contradiction is what keeps the case open. Not what was found, but what should have been found and wasn't. Every explanation creates imbalance. If they moved, the trail should continue. If they died, the remains should exist. If they were attacked, the destruction should be visible. But none of those outcomes fully appear, which leaves only fragmentation. Not one event, but many decisions, spread across distance, pressure, and time. And over centuries, the silence itself became the evidence, not because it explains anything, but because it refuses to resolve into a single answer. Later generations returned to the same question with new tools. Archaeology, records, oral history, but every layer uncovered produced the same result. Partial signals, no complete story. Even interpretations attributed to native accounts in early colonial reports remain inconsistent, offering fragments of memory but never a unified truth. And so the disappearance resists closure, not because it is unknowable in theory, but because no surviving record connects all its pieces. What remains is a structural absence, a population that entered history clearly and exited it without a traceable endpoint, which creates a rare kind of historical silence. Not the silence of no evidence, but the silence of incomplete evidence that never converges. And that is why the Roanoke question persists, not as a mystery of location, but as a failure of narrative continuity itself. Because the deeper issue is not where they went, it is how completely the outcome detached from the record. No confirmed ending, no verified sequence, no final human testimony, only the gap. And in that gap, every theory survives equally, not because they are proven, but because none of them can be eliminated entirely, which leaves history in an unusual position, not answering the question, but preserving it. So the final question is not about Roanoke alone. It is about what we expect history to do. Why do some events resolve cleanly into record, while others dissolve into uncertainty that time does not repair? And if an entire community can disappear from the historical record without a definitive endpoint, then what else in history is not missing, but simply unfinished? The colony is gone, but the question remains intact. If you want to explore more real mysteries like this, subscribe, because some stories were never meant to be solved.